The Old School is brought to you by Ahart Solutions, which provides school surveys and applied research. More information at ahartsolutions.com. And good morning, everybody. It's the Old School podcast. That's my half-hearted attempt at my Chris Russo impersonation.
Who's Chris Russo, if I may ask?
Is the Mad Dog.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
That guy, yeah. So,
Yeah.
If you don't know who Chris Russo is, my dear listeners, then that was a waste of time. But if you do know, you may have been able to catch an inkling of an impersonation that sort of sounded like him. So there you go. Chris Russo. How you doing, Dr. Bourgeois?
I'm doing fine. This is the Old School, if I remember how you used to introduce the show.
This is the Old School. We talk about a host of things.
Yeah.
And so we will attempt to do the same thing today.
There you go. And
now, how much is your spirit buoyed by the Oregon Ducks' defeat of the Ohio State Buckeyes?
Well, it was bound to happen. They've only lost once in a very long time in that building, and so for a team to have to travel 2 time zones or 2 hours difference, maybe 3. I'm not sure which one Ohio is. That's a lot for college kids. They have enough trouble just getting through their classes. So I thought that Oregon had an advantage, but they held up, and I thought that their defense would be up to the challenge, and it would be a stressful occasion, which it certainly was.
Has Ohio State ever been to Oregon before? Ever played at Oregon before?
Not to my knowledge. I know they played in Texas once, and I don't want to talk about that national championship debacle.
Yes.
So I think we had to exercise, those demons as well.
And they did so.
They did. Yeah. They played like they belong there. Like they're the number 3, now number 2 team in the country.
Despite having, they could be number 1 because Alabama had more than its share of problems, and then other teams have had their share of problems in the top. Who's number 1?
Texas.
Texas made short work of Oklahoma, although they had trouble getting started. But once they did,
Oregon has the biggest win of the college football season, so they might be recognized for strength of schedule at this point.
Well, it's pretty vaulted status for a team that collectively has some of the worst uniforms in college football. So good for them.
It's like the longest you've ever waited to bring up the uniform thing. You seem wide awake here, Miller, and
I am wide awake.
I'm a little bit. Well, both of us are. So this is different. We're usually kind of dragging, as it were, and here we are.
And our alert status should leave us with plenty of energy to talk about your list of grievances. And you've sent it to me as a spreadsheet. And so you have 9 topics. It would be pretty remarkable if we got through all 9, because there certainly is a lot to unpack here. Number 1, research says these are your grievances.
Well, let's do them one at a time. The more I think of it, it would give away, and then people would just leave when they see that it's just a bunch of old man things. so maybe everybody will be surprised by some things.
I was going to go through my David Letterman impersonation. Number 1, Paul, the number 1 grievance of Dr. Bourgeois.
It's never a good sign.
Research says
when you have to identify who you're impersonating.
Listen, I'm not an impersonator, right? And so it helps to kind of set the stage first before you launch into.
Well, you've demonstrated that a couple of times now, but
I know. So research says, I think I know where you're going with this, but make your case. young squire?
This one's pretty easy. It's, people are a little flippant with words they say, and whenever you say research, first of all, the fact that the verb is singular, it means that there's supposedly this body of research, and everybody agrees on it. And the whole point of research is often there are nuances and differences of results. And so you're taking advantage of, maybe the idea of you say research and people will just get behind you. But there are individual studies, possibly over years, and the other thing here is that when you say the word research or research says, people are waiting. Which researchers are you talking about? And you should put them down, maybe two or three of them, but you can't just say research says. You could just be making anything up you want with that, and people get away with it without being checked.
Anytime someone says research says, I always ask, what research?
Good.
I always say.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that people's attempt to try to use the expression to eliminate dissent is very anti-scientific method.
It's a little bit better than the statement people are saying. Yeah, it's a little bit above that, but not much.
So how often would you say you come across this phenomenon, and from what arena of life do you hear it the most?
Well, it comes, mainly from advertising. The people I talk to in conversations are like yourself, erudite, and would not do that.
Okay.
So I don't run into it in conversation very much because I have a cohort of folks that I associate with that know what they're doing. But in advertising, social media, people can get away with a lot of things, political ads, whatever it is. But I think that advertising is the worst. And sometimes they will put something in small print, but often it's just research says, or they used to use pull out doctors, 4 out of 5 doctors said, and then they show a picture of doctors in their little gowns or whatever, the stethoscope, and you think, okay, I can trust that.
Some doctor in his office smoking a Camel saying Camels are some of the best cigarettes that anyone can smoke.
That's right.
This is coming from a doctor.
Yeah, it was a better era back then.
By the way, I used that expression of yours just then. One of my friends is in France and she got into a cab and the cab driver was wearing a tie. She said she assumed she was going to be tossed out of the country here pretty soon. And I suggested to her it was a better era when taxi drivers wore ties. It's a little bit more formality. I like it.
Yeah, in general, that's one of our pet peeves. We could put this on the list. But this is, I think we're going to do what do you call it? Lightning round. I
We
love
do a lightning round.
love-
Although I want to leave out the possibility of calling an audible and dwelling in a place for a little bit, depending on the topic. So
whatever you want. Last week first of all, you had like a 10-minute rant. I was a little bit afraid, when you started. And so it was a matter of talking you down slowly, and eventually you came to your senses and realized that you were just exercising your childhood demons again.
yeah, there's a lot of emotional baggage that was surrounded last week's episode.
Yeah, well, you
All right.
seem happier now, so that was the whole point.
It was cathartic,
Yeah.
so
Glad I could help. I'm glad people listen to it too.
okay, now I'm particularly puzzled by this next one on the spreadsheet that's been cross-referenced by resources and sources named raffles.
Raffles.
You didn't mean ruffles like the potato chip?
No, they're perfectly fine. They hold the dip. They hold up pretty well. But no, raffles, it's an A.
Okay, what is your issue with raffles? I mean, who has a problem with raffles? That's like having a problem with a puppet show or something.
I hate puppet shows. I hate raffles. Um,
Have you been taken advantage of by a raffle?
no, something about it bothers me. Though, often at faculty meetings, I mean, the first assumption is it's part of your job to be there. I don't need to give stuff away, you know. And so you have a professional development all day, or you're at a conference and they're giving stuff away. But particularly when you're getting paid to be there, And then they give you these raffle tickets as you come in, and they have things they're going to give out. They're going to call your name. For initially, I would look at the little raffle ticket and just be hoping, not me, not me, not me, because I don't want to have to go up there. And for years, I never got called. And then eventually I said, why am I doing this? So I would take that little raffle ticket and put it in my pocket and never see it again, and then throw it out, surreptitiously as I'm leaving the room. But I didn't want my fate to be affected in any way by chance like that, first of all. And I just thought it was unseemly, and I was rooting against myself. And so every once in a while, maybe there was this awkward silence because nobody came up, and that was Dr. Bourgeois.
Now, my issue is not the raffle per se, it's what they tend to give away
You
at
want
the
better
end of the
gifts?
raffle. Say again?
You want better gifts? That's your
It's
complaint?
no, it's not about the gifts. Well, it is about the gifts, but my thing is that someone thought, let's do a raffle. It will build excitement. And then at the end, they'll get a pass to wear jeans on a day other than a Friday. And it's the level of prizes that suggests a complete lack of respect towards the people with whom they're dealing, and that we're some sort of like I don't know, some sort of underserved class is just waiting, dying for the chance to wear jeans outside of a Friday,
Yeah.
and it's demeaning. And if it was a better class of gifts, maybe I can accept the demeaning a little bit better. But when all we're talking about is jeans on like a Tuesday, I find that more offensive than the notion of raffles in and of themselves.
It's kind of insulting. They didn't have to pay any money for that one either. They're cheap. It's a cheap alternative. They could give away a parking spot in front. Suddenly you're
You can
parading
sit in.
past.
You can park in the principal spot for one
Yeah,
month.
that's right. You can be principal. That would be pretty good. Um, or maybe you can not turn in lesson plans for 30 days, and no one would not notice because no one looks at them. Yeah, I see what you mean. But if there are gifts, they have them sitting up there in a little gift bag or something. But I don't want to be the one who goes up there and particularly acts excited, because I don't act excited that often anyway. And in that situation, I get embarrassed when somebody stands up and is celebrating, doing a little dance. I don't want to be that person either.
We've all been reduced to people playing bingo in a
Oh,
community hall.
yeah.
So my curiosity is there any gift for which you would be excited to participate in a raffle? Let's say that your high school was giving away as part of a raffle uh 2 tickets on the 50-yard line to see the Oregon Ducks play God knows who. Would you be excited or would you still be offended?
I would hate it. I would not accept them. I'd give them away.
You would not give.
No, I promise you I would. And even
You're
bingo.
full of it. There's no way
No,
you give them
this
away.
is my life. I'm coming clean here. Even the idea of bingo, I mean, it's a public thing. People are looking around, and I'm not putting things up there on the bingo thing either because I don't want to be called up there. I don't want to say anything. So there's a little bit of just personal embarrassment. I'm a private person, but no, I don't want to win at bingo either. It's very much like the raffle, quite similar. But no, I wouldn't take tickets to Oregon or a cruise or no, I'm not going to get excited about that. I'd give it away.
It is perhaps part of the reason why you and I get along so well, that we have similar personalities, because remember what I tried to do with the retirement thing, that they were going to have like a retirement thing
Yeah,
at the end of the school year. And I thought I was going to miss it because I was jumping on a plane to Europe on the
yeah,
last day of school.
yeah,
And they moved it to the day before. And I got stuck being up front of people here's the group of old people that are retiring. So,
yeah. It's the same thing. We're curmudgeons. I think that's a bunch of reasons that we get along.
was it John Cleese said that the typical Englishman lives their whole entire life hoping to God they don't get embarrassed? The idea of being put on public display, I think, is part of our embarrassment. And yet here we are with our own podcast. Who to thunk it?
Yeah, I thought about that, because one of the things I was going to put on my list, well, it is up there. So, uh,
Okay.
but the idea of, yeah, doing podcasts, blogs, whatever, the difference, and the reason I think that we're willing to do this, first of all, we get to talk to each other once a week, which, you know, sometimes doesn't happen. So that's a good thing. But
Sure.
the other part is that it's an extended conversation. And if I say something, crazy or just even slightly inaccurate, you'll call me on it. And so we have to articulate our position. And this is actually a really good practice for, being able to talk extemporaneously. And a lot of people, most people can't do this.
I think my father used to call it busting someone's chops.
Yeah.
He's calling somebody out, so
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to defend it. But I think the long format, if we did like a 5-minute little thing and posted it and told a few planned jokes or something, no, that wouldn't work.
all right, number three. Number three, Paul.
Oh,
Number three, most annoying grievance from Dr. Bourgeois. Replay officials.
and this is in football mainly. I mean, any sport actually. I don't like it in basketball. I don't like it in, I don't know if they have it in hockey, whatever sport it is. And I have nothing against the individual official. I mean, they're doing their job, they're getting paid, and even though the rug is being pulled out from under them, every minute of the competition. And I mean, yes, they have technology to do this in the NFL, and they, but people are going to probably, it's going to trickle down to high school football. There's a bad call in high school football. People are going to run on the field and, you know, they have no recourse.
Throw the red flag and
Yeah. Yeah. So but it does something to authority. These referees make a call. It should be just accepted at that moment. I mean, there's a lot of bad calls historically in football, baseball, it happens all the time. But the momentum of the game stops. Oh, we're going to look at it. The announcers, become attorneys. Looking at mapping out the grassy knoll and all these things, and you lose the momentum of the sport as it happens. And then it also does this thing about authority in general. I think it's killing our country because we don't trust our institutions, we don't trust authority, and somebody who's an expert making a call, looking at it, we question it. So it actually is insidious in some ways, and I don't hold with it. I don't mind if my team loses on a bad call. That's the chance you take. It's sports. It's imperfect,
right.
um, and you get mad. I mean, the crowd gets upset. That's all part of it. But if they stop and review it, yeah, I don't like it.
I think yes, I think I see your point with regards to the idea of leaders and the idea of the subversion of the authority of leaders, because no leader is perfect, and so therefore no one should be held to that kind of standard. I do think, and this is not something I've ever heard anyone say, although maybe perhaps I just missed the conversation, but I think it's not a coincidence that people complain so much about how referees or umpires are getting worse
Mhm.
since the advent of replay, and no one seems to connect the dots. No one seems to, because now like referee or an umpire can make whatever call because they know that no matter what happens, it's going to get overturned if it's incorrect, and there's no social stigma on me as a result of it. And and again, the social stigma should not be about the fact that this guy's not perfect, but the fact that the guy doesn't seem to be terribly interested in improving on his job. And so I think not only does it tear away notion of leadership and authority, it also tears away the expectations that we should have of ourselves. And so, and the fact that no one has made this connection that I've heard of, I think is worth mentioning.
Well, it's similar in a way, to the idea of body cam footage of police officers, and
Right.
I don't expect police officers are really keen on it. I mean, they did it for important reasons.
Mhm.
There was a lot of and there is concern about the are the police officers being fair? Are they making good decisions? So it's a piece of evidence, but it also, you also have the testimony of the officer, and which becomes, less important over time. And I think that's, so it's all part of the same argument.
Hmm.
But these officials, I don't think I would, if that were my job, I would quietly walk away like the mailman delivering the mail. That's it. I'm leaving. Because how can you work that way? And I mean, they have it in college football. When is it going to be in high school? And I mean, do they have it in soccer? Maybe. I don't know. Do other countries do it, or is this an American phenomenon?
Well, certainly it is not an American phenomenon. I think we started it,
Hmm.
but I do not think it is now solely the purview of Americans to do this. I think it is interesting how many people and in how many professions purposefully, seemingly purposefully, denigrate the status of their own job.
Hmm.
And so, whether you're talking about umpires or referees, whether you're talking about, uh, in some cases, police officers, whether you're talking about politicians who act in an undignified, unprofessional sort of way, whether you're talking about media who are purposefully not objective, and it's supposedly the whole framework of journalism was supposed to be that you were a neutral observer
Right.
so that people could take seriously what you said when you said, this or that or the next thing. And and I think it what it does is it feeds the beast, and that is the outrage that people have. And every time I hear someone say they're outraged, I was like, who cares?
Really?
Right, I mean, who cares? I mean, there's so many people outraged over bullshit. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just who cares if you're outraged? I mean, it's a dime a dozen. You're not that important, and so it feeds a lot of things and it denigrates everything it touches. And so I'm inclined to agree with you on this one.
Well, once somebody agrees with you, you're supposed to move on. It's a sales thing. But I wanted to make, one more point. I wanted
It's
to praise baseball because the umpire calling balls and strikes is not overruled yet.
Yes.
The technology
Mhm.
is we're looking at the technology so we all can see that when they're wrong.
Right.
That little thing which I don't like either. Um, but there's something implicit in, it's accusing this referee of, being disingenuous, perhaps wanting another team to win. That's underlying all of this. Again, so it's this strange accusation of them, and I don't think there's a lot of evidence that referees are, on the take or something. There's a story about when I think it was Oregon basketball was playing in Hawaii, and so it was a close game, and then somehow the clock went out, so they couldn't, so they had to keep score on the sidelines, and the referee did, and so they were playing, and there was a raucous crowd, and the Oregon coach asked the referee, so what's the score? And the referee said, "Oh, we got you by 5." So that's kind of behind all of this, accusing them of doing something which is absurd. And yeah, so they're I kind of drive the point home a little bit. I don't like it.
Well, yeah, I think there's that. I think it's the idea of succumbing to the or giving legitimacy to people's conspiracy theories about how everyone's against them. I got a friend of mine who is a New Orleans Saints fan, and he is adamant that the NFL has purposely, at various times in the Saints' history, prevented the Saints from moving on to the playoffs. And I said, why do you think the Saints are that important to the NFL that they
Oh,
what do you think that they're stopping by keeping the Saints out of the playoffs or keeping the Saints out of the Super Bowl? It seems illogical, and it just feeds that narrative, I'm afraid.
yeah, and they have one of the historically worst calls against them, so I understand
Yes.
his anger for sure.
I can understand his anger at the moment.
Right.
10 years on, I don't get because
Yeah,
he'll talk about that. And much like you accused me of talking about the Colts leaving town.
yeah,
And so, well, anyway,
yeah. It's a
number
game.
four,
Number 4. Oh,
number four, this seems like this should be its own show, but
Yeah, yeah. We
social media.
social media, it can be brief. I mean, we wrote about it in our book. And but maybe, talking about just my own, experience with it, or lack of experience. There's this repeated phenomenon where I create a post and I only do LinkedIn. I've stopped using any of the others. Well, I did a little Facebook, but that was probably 5 years ago. But the idea of hitting send, I go through all of these.
First of all, I like how you tried to make Facebook like a youthful indiscretion. That was years ago when I was
Oh,
younger.
no, it was there was a takeover from it was initially made by young people to find out the status, so they could date somebody. I mean, a simple little thing, and it became what it is now. But actually the parents, the old people, took over Facebook, and that happened gradually, and they had a foothold. Now they own it, so it's for old people. Um, but
That's why the
yeah,
young people. That's why the young people went to Snapchat or
anything but Facebook. But the problem I see for myself is that, I have all this indecision, and hitting submit is really hard, or post. And I'll scour over a post for hours, and if there's an error, you can edit it, but
yeah.
it's going out there, and it, you're looking at this virtual world. It's not going to everybody. It's just going to people, that you're connected with, but it feels like it's everybody. And then I get the analytics, and an impression is means somebody's passed through the picture, or something. They've scrolled past it. They haven't clicked on it necessarily. And you don't get that many. And then you'll get maybe three or four thumbs up, and you look at who the people giving you thumbs up are. These are people I actually know in real life.
Personal friends
Personal friends. They're good friends.
like
And
me.
yeah, and I do the same thing for them. I'll give them a thumbs up. Sometimes I'll do a comment, just to, because I'm trying to support them. But the people I'm trying to attract, in addition, would be, new business. And they're kind of ignoring it. So I feel like it's an absurd thing, and what people post about is like showing themselves a picture of them at a conference, or eating a meal, or standing up next to an important person. And so it's like this self promotion that, again, I'm uncomfortable with that. But I need to also promote our business, A Heart Solutions, a leader in educational research and surveys.
That's
But
what I heard.
yeah, but I have trouble doing that, and I think it's the platform. It's like the worst strategy for me personally to do, because I have all these issues with social media. So I'm trying to get better, but something about it bugs me. I think it's the self promotion and being out there, and also remember Twitter used to be like 40 characters or something. That's not much. It seems like there's this
I'm
limit.
told. Yes.
Yeah, there's this limitation of depth. So I'm struggling with it, and eventually I would love to not even have to be present.
I think we've talked about before our difficulties in trying to ingratiate ourselves into the business culture,
Hmm.
given that we both come from the education background, although you have dabbled in the world of self promotion through music and other things that you've done. But, the notion of networking always struck me as weird and a bit manipulative. Certainly the idea of touting my own successes. In Australia, they have the idea of cutting down the tallest poppy, that everyone should, the idea of someone trying to put themselves above everybody else is inherently problematic. And I can't help but think I sort of agree with that. So, um, I never been on social media. I only see the effects of it. I have been and I am on LinkedIn, and I got into LinkedIn because I was told it was a business oriented, professional oriented server, program, whatever you call it. And I find that more and more people treat LinkedIn as simply an extension of Facebook. And people post things on LinkedIn as if they're posting on Facebook that only tangentially may have something to do with a professional endeavor, but it's yet another toilet of political ideas and social ideas, and hey, here's my kid graduating from college. We didn't think he'd make it out of the second grade, or just, whatever the case may be. And so I find myself that I am less and less on that thing because every time I get on it, I want to shake my head in shame.
Well, any platform is kind of an extension, like Marshall McLuhan said, the extension
Yes.
of man. Um, and this type of thing, it can function that way. If you go to a conference and you
Yes.
meet somebody, it, it's a great way to get business and solidify some things because you see them in person. But then you can use LinkedIn. You connect with them on LinkedIn, and then you send an individual message and set up a meeting. And so it allows you to do some things individually.
Yes.
Too many people, they'll get connections, and then the first thing they do is send a pitch. Hi, thanks for being a connection. Why don't you buy this from me? And so that it's really taken it used to be a little bit less obvious. It's still self-promotion and sales,
Right. Yes.
100%, but
Yes.
now it's a little bit more blatant. People are writing books on how to maximize LinkedIn has developed a lot of sales tools, so it does work. So the problem actually in all of these things is myself.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm the outlier. That's what's kind of similar on all of these things on the list.
Well, perhaps in a related subject, number
Yeah.
5,
Oh,
recommendation on streaming platforms.
remember when you would have to stand up, turn the channel, and then you go sit down? And if it was
Yes.
a little bit too quiet, you'd have to stand up, turn the knob, and then
Yes.
sit down again. Then you want to watch another show, you would stand up, turn, and they had
Yes.
maybe three channels and then a lot of fuzzy stuff on the other ones. Um, so that's a little context for where we're coming from. Uh, but if at that time, say in the 1970s, you would get, instead of trying to turn the channel, to watch the Tonight Show or something, you get a list of things based upon your preferences with those three channels and say, you're going to watch the Mike Douglas show or something, and here it's keeping track of everything you've watched, and it's presumptuous, so you're on Netflix, Max, whatever it is, and first of all, it keeps track of everything that you've done. I don't like that ever. It's a
Yes.
surveillance state. And they'll have that forever. Your personal data, they're using it for all kinds of things. Um, but then you have this list of recommendations, and that's what gets me because I don't want that list. I'm
Mhm.
quite happy searching and finding what I want, but I don't want to see, this is what I've been watching. Here's something else. I'll intentionally not watch it because it's been recommended. So I wish, and there's no way to my knowledge that you can disable that function. And so there's something troubling, big brotherish, that somebody's keeping track. It's just like keeping track of your geo spacing or wherever you are in the world. Um, I will, the same thing as if and you probably have this, you open up turn on the car and on the map, it immediately says,
What map?
yeah, well, you're way behind me on this, but it'll tell you where your destination is. I go to take my daughter to school, so it tells me that without me even putting it in. And then when I would work out at LA Fitness, it would say the next, and then it would say home. But that same idea is with media watching things, and you're getting these recommendations for you, and it's presumptuous. I'd like to turn it off because there's something long term about that. That's data that they will always have, and they're trying to predict what you would like, which I think is nonsense.
I don't know if you can turn off recommendations, but there are a couple of things you can turn off that might prevent the recommendations from happening.
The TV.
Well, yeah, maybe so. But when I got my, so for the longest time, I had a flip phone.
Mhm.
And I remember when the flip phone started to act up, I went into the T-Mobile place and the teenagers behind the counter snickered at me when I said I wanted another one of these. and those little bastards, they're laughing and giggling, and they said they don't have one of those. And now flip phones are back in, so maybe I should go back and try it again.
Yeah, do it.
But the as soon as I had my first iPhone, which was a couple years ago, a few years ago.
By the way, this is number 6 on the list, so we're pivoting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. So, but we
it's
came to it naturally. So
yeah,
let's
we're
do it.
still connecting. But anyway, so the cell phone, of course, has the means by which to hear and to track.
Right.
And so one of the first things I did is I took my phone to a buddy of mine who's like a real big IT guy, and I said, take everything off of this thing that is listening or tracking.
Wow.
And so he goes, now, of course, you tell someone this,
Hmm.
and if you get a hold of a conspiracy theorist, they're like, man, there's things in there. No one knows where it is. And they're still listening. They're still tracking you. And so, but,
Yeah.
but my buddy took all that stuff off and he
Yeah.
turned everything off. And so, um, and so that helps kind of take away the recommendations because no one's recommending me to do anything. I think it's part of a general thing, and I think you see it most commonly, like in the grocery store.
Hmm.
So the grocery store has like a reward program for their shoppers, and you keep a tab that like a little stick there that you can put on
Hmm.
the thingamajig at the pay, and they provide sales on items that you buy. And so I go to Kroger. Kroger's got this thing, and I refuse to do it because I had a lady told me one time last time I checked out, not the last time, it was a couple times before, but the lady said, "Would you like to sign up for our rewards program?" I said, "I would not." And she goes, Do you not like saving money?" I said, "I like saving money fine." I said, "I don't like the trade-off that happens with you guys being able to keep." She goes, "It doesn't keep track of any personal business or any personal information." I said, "Well, of course it does. That's the whole point of the thing is that it keeps track of what you buy and then it offers you sales."
No, no, that's not how it works, Miller.
Of course that's how it
No,
works.
it's
That's
just
how.
that you're a
Yes, yes,
customer
yes.
there, and yeah, I mean, it keeps track of how much you spend so that you get extra savings on gas. But it doesn't look at which products you buy. You're just a Kroger customer, and that's encouraging you to stay there. But no, it's not
No,
telling
no,
you
no,
that
no,
you
no, no,
buy toilet paper or whatever. It has no knowledge of that.
no, no. I don't believe it. I don't buy it, and I'm not.
Research says that
No, I refuse to do it, and I won't do it, and it's just and it's like when people used to ask, they don't do it so much anymore, but when they used to ask for your phone number, I'd either, it depended on how cantankerous I was at that particular moment. I would either give them a fake number, and they knew it was a fake number because it started out with 555, or I just said, I don't want to give you my number. And nowadays, the people who still ask for it, they've been trained not to react to that. But back in the beginning, I mean, you could see the checkout person short
Yeah.
circuit right in front of you because they're just expecting people to just rattle off their phone number in front of God and everybody as if it doesn't matter. And so,
Wow. You're pretty good at lying here, Miller. You're just giving the wrong number. It reminds me of when we were looking for houses and you made up a fake name. I like that.
no, because we had already put in a contract. I was going to
I
show you
know.
the house, but I didn't want the realtor to know that I was coming back there. So they knew my name, but they didn't know what I looked like, and so I just gave him a fake name.
I was proud of myself not breaking down in laughter when you did that.
All right. So what's your deal about cell phones?
Everything. I mean, that we could spend a whole day and a half, 2 days about it, but as I've said publicly, at some point, hopefully very soon, I can take that and drop it in the Rhine. Um, the adage, that do you have technology or does technology have you? Um, that phone is close to people all the time, and people don't get too far away from it. And I mean, it's practically impossible to buy tickets, say to a event, a concert, a football game. You need to open that up. That's how you get in. That's how you pretty much in airports, all these things eventually are going to be paying with it. And so it's gradually these little steps that become big steps where it's taking over more and more. It becomes essential. And, it's also built in this obsolescence where what are we on 13, 14, 15, 16 version of iPhone? But all of that is, costing us money. It's a lot of money. So it takes your attention, and I've been cutting away apps, constantly. You've been adding apps probably since you had like five to begin with.
I
Uh,
got 6, I think now, or 7.
that's good, but I think I'm ready to go to the flip phone again. The only problem I have is I have a historically bad sense of direction, and so if I'm driving, um, I really can't function, unless I just know exactly where I'm going. So having that navigation is a safety issue. But other than that, I could do away with the phone, and I don't really need it for business. I mean, I can receive a text message, but basically, I can work on my at my computer and do that. But I find it, troubling, and I did an experiment a week ago, and where I took a bit of, you would call it a Sabbath. It's from sundown on Friday night to sundown on Saturday night.
There you
And
go.
but it wasn't maybe your traditional Jewish Sabbath. It was, just not doing two things. One was working, which is really hard for me to not do.
It's a big
And the
deal.
other, yeah, and the other one was, any screen at all. I would not have on, would not look at any screen. And the day went very slowly, and it was beautiful. And I did a lot of reading, a lot of thinking, and went outside a little bit, played with the dog. But my stress after even about 2 hours just went away. And I think there's just something about, that the phone demands attention, and all these screens that we're looking at. It's rewiring us, so it's actually changing the human, over time. And I know that, you know, for longevity, for personal health, those places that you call them the blue zones, right?
Right.
They looked at a lot of things why people live to be over 100. It's not just they drink a certain red wine. A lot of it has to do with,
That doesn't hurt, by the way.
yeah, that's right. That's a good thing. But they they look at how steep the city is, the town is, so they have to walk and get exercise. They're around family members. They have support. They actually live with their family when they're older. But I would wager that those folks also aren't beholden to a cell phone or a screen. So I think it's actually hurting, the human, and the effects. We don't know. We invent things, and we don't really, just like AI, we don't really know the effects until it's happened.
Well, one of the things that has happened around here, and it's not just around here, it is in other places around the country, is that you have school districts that are basically banning cell phones
Hmm.
and banning them from the classroom, banning them from the school altogether. And of course, there's always parents like, I need to talk to my kid at, whatever, And so, I have friends who are teaching in these districts, and they have remarked about how much kids are reconnecting with one another, and how much, upon reflection and upon discussion with these kiddos, that they talk about how they like it, that it's better, that they feel better. And there's an advantage there, and there's perhaps a lesson there,
Hmm.
that cell phones are a particular problem, and they take more than they give.
Hmm.
And so I think, it could be something where perhaps society may be starting to get it. Remember when I first said, when kids were engaging with their cell phones, it looked like they were addicted. Remember that faculty meeting we were
Oh
at
yeah.
that previous school, and everyone looked at me like I had 3 heads. And I said, it looks like they're addicted or something. That's how, I mean, this was like at the beginning of it.
Yeah, in the yeah, a long time ago. What? Yeah,
And
12 years ago.
it's not like I'm Nostradamus. It's just that because I didn't have my own head in my own phone, because I didn't have a phone at the time, that you could more easily see the behavior that people were exhibiting as they were interacting with the phone.
Well, I knew we were in trouble at that point because one of the students, had to do with, his laptop, and he's the idea of not having his laptop with him, and he said, "Well, how could I not have my brain with me?"
Oh dear.
And that was that same time period. I thought, ooh, yeah. So we knew from the beginning, but it's been this gradual, ceding of territory, and it's does anybody think it's going to get better? I mean, if you look at the amount of screen time for kids, there are ways to actually take that cell phone without taking them. There's a company that puts them in a pouch and it's locked up until the
Yeah,
end of
yeah,
the school day.
yeah.
I think it takes, draconian measures. Kids will have a burner phone, in their shoe or something. And because I mean, it truly is an addiction, but think about the benefits of attention and student discipline. I mean, all these things, we studied this, you and I, we interviewed our students at that same time, and
Right,
I learned from them what we didn't really understand was that there were two things happening at school. There was the teacher's idea of classes, and then there was a social drama that played out until lunchtime,
right,
until they went home, and then it continued. You know, uh, so it's a problem that you know we're not going to solve necessarily, but I think the flip phone, because if you need to text and receive phone call, which I think is a safety issue,
right,
I could see doing that, but the idea of physically dropping that phone in the Rhine, it seems like the only place where it should go. Um, and we do it together. That would be something because we get on that plane. What an elated feeling. You know, maybe at first we'd probably be like the end of The Graduate when they're in the back of the bus wondering what happened. Um, but I think that would be, the beginning of a wonderful time of, peace, and you don't see that anymore, with all the technology.
Well, first of all, we're going to need to figure out something else to do with our phones because I told you I had mentioned when I was in Germany back in February that my goal was to, as soon as I could, I was going to take the phone and just throw it into the Rhine.
Yeah.
And my German friends were like, "Why would you do that to the Rhine? Why would you dirty it up by putting electronics into it?" It's fine, fine, I'll burn it. Just
Look at
like
burning it is not the same thing. It has to go into pristine water that has significant historical significance. Um,
drop
so
it in, drop it in the Ganges or something, some river that's already accustomed to having a bunch of stuff thrown into it. But I don't
yeah,
know, just something where I don't mind the idea of burning. I like the idea. It's like a purification process, and so it might have just the thing that I'm looking for. I told you I was going to have a shaman priest, and I
yeah.
was going to record it on for YouTube, so just and just be
Oh,
done with this thing.
I'll do that with you. Maybe we just blow them up. That would be symbolic and it would be good television.
Ask the Israelis how to do that.
Touche, Herman.
Well, um, so this has been a fun conversation, and perhaps we should hang on to these last couple ideas and extend this into maybe a future episode where we revisit the topic of grievances.
I think so. I feel better about it. Having done it, I enjoyed making the list. I had to trim it. I had probably 20 or 30 grievances, and I thought, oh, man. Because a
This
lot
is
of them,
ridiculous.
yeah, a lot of them is just, being old. This old, I
Yeah.
don't like when kids get on my lawn or something. Um, I hope that it was more than entertaining, but yeah, it's a little bit of context to understand the psyche of the two of us because I mean, we call it the old school, but
There's a reason.
yeah, we're not making this up.
Well, with that, we have football, and as you are off your sabbatical, perhaps you might indulge in some football watching. Um, but with that, with another week ahead of us, We shall say adieu, Herr Dr. Bourgeois.
Auf Wiedersehen, Herr Müller.